Hi everyone, today on the Golden Girls channel we are going to be discussing menstruation. So we're going to talk about different symptoms, different ways that people go through menstruation, as well as multiple different well-known and not so well-known ways of controlling your bleeding. And we're also going to bring up the tampon tax and some other little things about that. So we played sort of a guessing game about different facts that have to do with menstruation. Some of the girls knew the answers, some of them were way off, but here are the facts that we discussed. There are 40 states that impose taxes on tampons and other menstrual items. Of those 40 states, some of them tax it just like they tax any other item, and some of them are considered luxury items and are therefore taxed with the luxury tax, meaning that the taxes on them are higher than other products. Because having your period is a luxury. Yeah, alright, tampons and pads are considered non-essential. And of the 10 states that don't impose taxes on tampons, the majority of them are just, they don't impose taxes on them because they don't have sales tax. Like Oregon has no sales tax, therefore the tampons are not taxed. So on average, a woman in her lifetime will use 16,800 tampons. That's a lot of tampons. And women in the US on average as a whole spend about $2 billion on menstrual items. Okay, all of the girls knew this answer, that when you're wearing a tampon you should leave it in for no more than 8 hours. There's a common misconception that if you're using a tampon that is a higher absorbency, like a super or super plus tampon, then you can leave it in for longer, but it's actually kind of the opposite. It's fine to leave any type of tampon in for 8 hours, but the higher level of absorbency usually means that there's it's more concentrated cotton. It's actually, you're putting more of that in your body, so it's better to be changing more frequently. But 8 hours should be the max unless you're sleeping in it, and if you're sleeping in it you should change it right before you go to sleep and right when you wake up, and make sure that everything is fine and keep everything really clean. One thing that the girls didn't know was pads. They thought that pads you can wear for longer without changing, when in fact you should be changing your pad every 3 to 4 hours. And the reason for this is because when you're wearing a tampon, you're keeping everything in your vagina, and when you're wearing a pad the blood is appending very slowly, and so it's being exposed to outside environments, you know, whatever your underwear is made up, airflow, sweat, all of that, so it can very quickly grow bacteria, and if you keep a pad on for too long without changing it, you can actually get a bacterial infection. Some other fun facts: Canada is the first country to completely get rid of any tax on menstrual items, so go Canada. We talked about tampons and pads and how long you can keep those in, but another form of period control that's actually really good and a lot of people don't use or know about are menstrual cups. These are like Diva cups and stuff is another name for it. They're basically exactly what they sound like. They're little silicone cups, and you bend them and you stick them up and they hold blood, and you can actually keep those in for 12 hours. So that's a really good one because you buy a cup, and when you take it out you wash it, so you only have to buy one. I mean, I don't know as much as I should about them, so I don't know how long you can keep them before needing a new one, but you can keep them for months. You can use them a lot. In order to menstruate as a woman, you need 12 to 18% body fat at the least, which is why a lot of Olympic athletes no longer menstruate, because they're so muscular and they have such low percentages of body fat that the body actually can't produce the materials to undergo menstruation. In addition, although it might seem like when you're on your period you're bleeding cups and cups and cups, on average in one menstrual period a woman will bleed between 2 tablespoons and half a cup of blood. It's still a fair amount, but it's nowhere near as much as we think. So, okay, obviously we all know that for some unknown reason talking about menstruation in public is not okay. So what do you guys think about that?
I think it should be open. Yeah, I think it happens to half of the world's population, so why not talk about it in public?
Yeah. Why are periods normal? Because half the population has it.
everything.
It's a bodily function.
Normal.
It's a bodily function. With menstruation comes ovulation. It's needed to give birth.
Oh, babies.
We'll just write babies.
Babies. Yeah, so unless you don't want the world to repopulate.
Yeah. Happens every month. Also, okay, so here's the thing about normalizing periods. Because it's not normalized, there's like a lack of funding and stuff for healthy options for like controlling your period, and so a lot of women can't afford feminine hygiene products. So there's been an increase in cervical cancer in places like third world India, and
that really pisses me off that like girls, like, we don't choose to have periods, but yet they make us pay money or like extra taxes for something that we can't control.
So yeah.
Like,
so Lakshmi, okay, tell a story.
Okay, so in 7th or 8th grade, I had my PE teacher, who was a man, or like a male PE teacher, and I had just, it was like I got my period like the end of 6th grade, so it was like the first year or two of like having my period, so I like wasn't fully regular, like used to it. So I'm like running in the gym, playing games or something, and I can like feel myself start my period. And I was like, oh, and I asked him, I was like, can I go to the bathroom? He's like, oh no, you can't, like not until the end of the period. And I was like, no, I need to go to the bathroom like now. He was like, you can't. And I was like, why not? Well, because you have to finish the game. And I said to him, like, I have to go to the bathroom. And he was like, no, you don't. And like kept yelling at me, and I was like,
this happens.
And then I like literally told him like I have that period, and he was like, oh, fine, go.
Oh my god.
That happened to me with an old PE teacher. Like, girl issue, I have to go to the bathroom. She's like, I guess you can go. I'm like,
yeah.
You're literally a girl. Why don't you understand?
It's annoying because it's like, it's so obvious too, and there's so many people that are like, yeah, but girls like abuse the right, and are like, I'm on my period and go to the bathroom, and they're not. I'm like, no.
Abuse? What right? To use the toilet?
Yeah. I love my right to bleed from my vagina for 7 days. It's fun. Okay, first of all, I think people should go to the bathroom as much as they want. Like, if they're going like twice per class, it's pretty obvious that they're like abusing the right. But going to the bathroom is like not like a privilege. Like it's a
You gotta pee, you gotta pee.
Yeah.
At my school, my teachers are like, you don't have to ask to go to the bathroom. It's a basic human right. Like, what is wrong with you guys?
There's only a couple teachers I have that are like that.
So the thing about menstruation is it's a perfectly natural part of life, and it is something that we need to talk about more. However, when you're not taking care of yourself and you're not keeping everything hygienic, menstruation can cause a lot of problems. Poor menstrual hygiene can lead to cervical cancer and a lot of other illnesses. In third world countries where it's a lot harder for a woman to get menstrual care, and where the stigma surrounding menstruating is higher, there are much higher levels of cervical cancer, and it's really concerning. Most women probably know of this or have heard of it. If you pick up a tampon box, it's always in the warnings on the instructions of toxic shock syndrome, which is actually a really serious illness. It starts off kind of slow and then it very quickly escalates. So if you don't receive medical attention at the beginning, it can be really detrimental to your health. Some of the symptoms and signs of the syndrome include a very sudden high fever, low blood pressure, vomiting, diarrhea, a rash, particularly on the palms and the soles of your feet, very serious confusion, muscle aches, redness in your eyes, your mouth, or your throat, seizures, and headaches. So as you can see, there's a variety of these symptoms, and some of them are very minimal and they might go unnoticed, and some of them are a lot more serious, and those are usually the ones that happen as the illness progresses. If you are displaying any of these symptoms, it's very important that you go and see your doctor as quickly as possible, because like I said, it progresses very quickly, and it can, if left untreated, it can kill you. Toxic shock syndrome, you can get it in a couple of different ways. It can happen if you have cuts and burns on your skin that you don't treat and that get infected, if you had a recent surgery that isn't healing, a viral infection like chicken pox that gets out of hand, and of course if you're using very absorbent tampons. But as well as tampons, it can also happen from overuse of diaphragms and contraceptive sponges. So you have to be really careful about that. Like basically anything that you're putting into your vagina, you need to be careful, and you need to think about how that can disrupt your pH level and your bacteria.
Oh,
What do you mean no?
I was napping.
Well, that sucks.
that's on video.
Okay.
Mississippi.
What?
No, how many of them? 10. I don't know what these states are. There's 50 states.
Oh my god,
Append, which means to add in supplementary matter.
I will bleed all over y'all's, okay?
Confusion. Muscle.
Sorry. My partner ordered regular. Yeah.
Different forms of bleeding control. What's that called? Menstrual care. Go into shock, have renal failure, or Henry. Inconsiderate. Just think about your surroundings, honey.
So we have a wart.
Tampon tax.
Oh, there's a tampon hack. So now I was like, is she a big
Make a tampon into a beauty blender. Oh my god, my skin looks so clear right now. Thanks, ring light. Because my forehead's like breaking out from pre-period, but like can't see it.
Oh, also I can my camera was okay. Honestly, why is Canada doing everything right?
For real, I mean, except for the treatment of Native American people.
And the things just slaughtering the schools.
But besides that, Justin's doing great. I mean, and like the LGBT community is thriving. Like, Justin, you're doing great, sweetie.
Yes.
I like everything.
I like
They are two different countries.
Okay.
Oh!
Me and my biology teacher.
I'm not gonna go political.
That's bad word.
Hey,
What?
do you have an evergreen board I can use?
What?
Oh, no.
Nail file thing?
Why does every old person call them every boards?
Because just call me old
That's
person.
what they're
I don't know.
I don't know what they're actually called. I just
They
don't know.
are.
Strip away the cellophane. My heart is drowning in your name. How can I hear you say mine when you're so very far away? Sunsets with